Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our special meeting of Council for Budget. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Camberwell people and First Nations people throughout the Southern Downs, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We have all in attendance and no apologies. And councillors, for this special meeting, we will largely be dealing with ordinary business. So while there are not necessarily conflicts of interest, I would just remind you of the local government principles, which do require impartial decision making. If anyone feels they would like to make a statement prior to proceeding on matters that they think may be perceived as impartial rather than a conflict of interest, then please let me know. No? Okay. Councillors, we're going to move through the papers today. I'll ask you to keep your discussion of the budget to item 4.5, when we will then debate the budget, but we will move through the earlier items first. So moving on to item 4.1. The National Competition Policy. We have a recommendation that Council, in accordance with section 47(7) of the Queensland Local Government Act 2009, continue to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to the following significant business activities: water and sewage and waste services, and determines not to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct for 26-27 to the Warwick Sale Yards. Do I have a mover for that one? Thank you, Councillor Haslett, and seconded Councillor Richters. Does anyone want to discuss that item? No? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 4.2. We have a recommendation that Council adopt the attached schedule of general fees and charges for the 26-27 financial year as a budget item. The draft fees and charges were released for public consultation, and there have been some amendments based on the submissions received. We've also spoken to a number of community groups who are interested in particular parts of the fees and charges as part of our consultation. I think it's good to note that we've kept most of the fee increases below CPI at 3.5%, which is quite a good result for our community, particularly in relation to the fees and charges relating to swimming and our recreation centres. Water and wastewater charges are still on the pathway to a full user pays system. This was started in the Penici-Bartley Council in 2023-24, and it was the right thing to do, which is why we have continued with the adjustment under this council. The increases adopted in the pathway end in 2027-28. Water security is a key focus for Council, and the water and wastewater assets are at the end of their life. Water charges support our $12 million investment in essential water infrastructure and long-term... No? Okay. Those speaking for? Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Wantling?
I'd just like to say it's fantastic that we kept those swimming fees to a minimum. I've just got one that I'm a bit disappointed with. I think it's a membership with the gym group fees. Adults, it's gone up $49 for the 3-month membership, and that's also for a concession on that as well. It's raised $49. And the same as the 6-month one, it's actually gone up as well. And just one other thing, last financial year, one of the columns that we had was the previous year's column as well, so we could match up what the increases were, and I noticed that that's been taken out. Is it possible next financial year that we can put that back in? So I think just for all transparency, so we can see exactly what's gone up and what hasn't.
Yes, Councillor.
No worries, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Huss.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a query on the hire of public halls fees there. which we discussed quite a bit a while back and reduced those higher fees significantly. But there is a cleaning fee in there, which is more than the higher fee itself. There's also a bond fee, which I guess you get back if it's returned in the same state that it's leased out in or hired out in. Is the cleaning fee a mandatory fee, or is that a negotiable fee where if you're paying a bond and then you clean it yourself, you don't have to pay the cleaning fee? Because when I was reading that, I was unsure, and I had some people ask about that.
Yes, I believe that is the case.
So in effect, what that reads there is the higher fee that we said is not the higher fee. The higher fee is the higher fee plus a mandatory cleaning fee, which more than doubles the original.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Or
I
the other way
misunderstood. It's
around.
the other way around. So if
It's
you want to clean
negotiable.
yourself, then you don't need to. If you want to go in, use and then leave, there's a
Okay.
cleaning fee, and that's how it works.
Thank you. That clarifies that for me. Thank you. Councillor
Can I
Richards?
just extend onto that question then? So if people have been charged the cleaning fee where they don't think they should have been, should they be asking for a refund?
Through Mayor, yes, they can.
Thanks.
Do any other councillors want to speak to that item? Oh, Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support the 26-27 fees and charges schedule being presented today. While nobody likes to see increases in fees and charges, I think it's really important that we regularly review them and ensure that we keep up with the actual cost of providing a service. And I think these charges proposed are reasonable and help ensure that council can continue to deliver the facilities and services our community relies on.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Richards?
Like you, Mayor, I'm also happy that the fees and charges were kept within the 3.5% that people expect. There's a few fees and charges in there that we're adding that I don't particularly agree with, and I'm also disappointed that the aerodrome changes didn't appear in the fees and charges. But as a whole, I'm happy with the balance of the fees and charges.
Do any other councillors want to speak to that item? No? All in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley. And those against? Councillor Bartley. Moving on to item 4.3. We have a recommendation that council adopt the 26 to 31 corporate plan. Again, I'll move that motion. Deputy Mayor, you have a second? Yes, thank you. The corporate plan engagement was the largest community engagement response we've had at council, and I want to say thank you to the community for the strong input in shaping the new corporate plan. In the survey, we received over 1,800 responses from residents across the region, and a further 400 community members spoke to us about what matters to them at our pop-up sessions late last year and early this year. It's a fantastic result and shows just how much people care about the future of the Southern Downs. We've heard why people love living in the Southern Downs, and the community's feedback genuinely guided the decisions we've made. We've heard clearly what matters most: reliable infrastructure, safe and connected communities, a livable region, and responsible financial management. The corporate plan reflects those priorities. It makes commitments to our community, and we will measure delivery of those commitments in our quarterly reports and in the annual report, all of which are publicly available. Feedback received on the draft plan showed strong support for the direction we're taking. The most strongly supported commitments related to responsible financial management, delivering core services and infrastructure, and supporting a strong local economy. We've heard consistent messages across multiple engagement exercises and in our discussions with the community that roads and maintenance, water security and water infrastructure, and parks, gardens and public spaces are key community priorities. The extensive engagement undertaken throughout the corporate plan development process provides us with a strong evidence base demonstrating that the corporate plan reflects the priorities, aspirations and expectations of the Southern Downs community. I think the engagement and workshops over the last 7 months in bringing this to council have been really productive, and I want to thank the community, staff and councillors for all of their contributions. Do we have anyone speaking against the corporate plan today? No. Does anyone want to speak for the corporate plan? Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor, congratulations to the staff, public and my fellow councillors for all the hard work involved in the corporate plan. It certainly doesn't come easy. It's an extensive plan that demonstrates foresight, moving on with technology to share the projections and successes for the future. I will comment that no amount of planning can negate unforeseen circumstances such as wars, global instability and pandemics. This document is a foundation to steer our organisation and the operational plans moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Richters.
Like what has already been said, I'm very thankful for the process that we've gone through to get to the corporate plan. It was extensive. There was lots and lots of discussion and ideas, and the greater majority of that is reflected in the plan that we're looking at today. I think the corporate plan, the officers be able to achieve it.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Would any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I was really pleased to see the response that we received from the corporate plan survey, with around 1,800 residents taking the time to provide feedback. That's a fantastic level of engagement, and it gives us a strong understanding of what our community values and what does a good job of capturing those expectations and providing a clear direction for the future of the Southern Downs. I think the 5 pillars of this corporate plan captures what matters most to our community. One thing I particularly like about this plan is it recognises the diversity of our region. We have a number of unique towns and communities across the Southern Downs, each with its own identity, strengths and priorities. It's important that we continue to support and celebrate those individual communities while remembering that we are all part of one region. I think this plan strikes a good balance between recognising the importance of each community while also providing a shared vision for our future together. Overall, I think this community corporate plan reflects what our community has told us and provides a solid foundation for council over the coming years.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar words to other people. This corporate plan captures a vision that came directly from our community, which is really important. The thriving places, open spaces, happy faces, I think is a really lovely, catchy title there. It reflects the aspirations of our residents, and it provides a clear direction for us for the next 5 years. What I particularly like about it is that it balances ambition with our responsibility as a council. The principles that will guide our decision making are maintain before expand, reliable before additional, affordable before aspirational, and as is our job as councillors, the region before the individual. And to me, those principles reflect perfectly what our community has asked of us. They tell people that we will focus on getting the basics right, maintaining what we already have, investing responsibly, and ensuring that every dollar is spent where it delivers the greatest benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Councillor Wanley.
On the corporate plan, there are a number of initiatives that I am pleased to support. One that particularly stood out to me is a commitment to make it easier for community groups to utilise council-owned or managed land and buildings by standardising the leasing process. Over the past 12 months, I've received countless phone calls from community organisations seeking help with leases, access arrangements and tenure issues. It has clearly been a source of frustration for many groups, so I am encouraged to see council making this a priority. I also look forward to seeing the new land tenure framework delivered in March next year. I'm also pleased to see the commitment to developing a footpath connection plan. There are some very obvious missing links across our region, and improving connectivity is important for people of all ages. I often think of the residents living in Granite Street in Stanthorpe, where simply getting into town can be extremely difficult for those using mobility scooters. when we talk about active communities, we're not just talking about young people playing sport. We're talking about creating communities where people of all ages and abilities can leave their homes, connect with others and access services safely and independently. Another area I am pleased to see included in the committed to reducing the red tape in council's procurement process and increasing spending with local businesses. Supporting local suppliers should always be a priority. These are the business employing local people, sponsoring local events and paying rates in our communities. While I welcome the target of increasing local supply spend by 20%, I would like to see us aim even higher where possible. Supporting local businesses simply makes sense. While it is pleasing to see areas where council is performing well, I believe it is just as important that we focus on the areas where the community feels we are falling short. Those are the areas that should drive our attention and our actions over the life of the corporate plan. Advocating for community, having available and affordable housing decisions made that the community believe are not in the best interest. Our asset and financial management, living within, very short. Those results should give us cause for reflection. That being said, I do believe this plan addresses many of these issues going forward. For those reasons, and because I believe the plan provides a clear direction for addressing many of the challenges, I will be supporting and voting in favour of the corporate plan.
Thank you, councillor Wantling. Any more councillors? Councillor Pigeon.
Thank you to all involved with the process. The corporate plan's emphasis on delivering basics well reflects what residents have been calling for: reliable roads, infrastructure and services that improve everyday life across the region. The guiding principles of maintaining existing assets before expansion and ensuring affordability before aspiration are sensible foundations for decision making, and I look forward to this corporate plan guiding us for the next 5 years. So thank you.
Thank you, councillor Pigeon and councillor Windle.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm probably going to reiterate much of what's already been said, but firstly I would like to thank everyone who participated in developing this 5-year corporate plan. This was actually my 3rd corporate plan, and I really enjoyed the workshops and completely felt included and invested in the outcome of this particular plan. Everyone was given equal opportunity to provide input and ideas, and although we were, I've just lost my page. Although we were all aware that we needed to develop a plan that was realistic and achievable, and we needed to take it seriously, we did manage to have a little bit of fun with it as well, which was great. Councillors have been working together with staff and the community to develop this corporate plan since November 2025. A lot of thought has gone into it and ideas discussed at great length. The community has shown a lot of interest and has contributed, which shows strong community pride in our region. Their priorities included infrastructure, housing affordability, economic development, employment opportunities, healthcare access, and maintaining a safe and livable region. We agree with them because that's exactly what we want to see in our region as well. We know that that's what we should have. With their input in mind, this plan has been developed very strategically. Projects will be prioritised while setting each annual budget while keeping in line with the long-term financial planning. The 5 community commitments are a strong indication of what the community wanted to see in this plan, and we listened to them. Like I said, this is what we want as well. Together we have included the following principles which will guide future planning and investment for our region. Reflect the community's vision, maintain before expansion, reliable before additional, affordable before aspirational, and the region before individual. The plan is all about thriving places, open spaces, happy faces, and that is what we want to achieve over the next 5 years. Once adopted, this 5-year corporate plan will be integrated into Council's operational plan annually, and I urge everyone to take the opportunity to have a look at the copy and read it through. It's available on our website and through our council offices as well. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Windle. Anyone else want to speak to that item? No? Okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 4.4. We have a recommendation that council adopt the 2026-27 operational plan as required by section 174 and 175 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. I will move that and Deputy Mayor Williams second. Thank you. The 5-year corporate plan shows where we're going and what commitments we're making to the community. The annual operational plan shows what we'll do each year to get there. This is the first operational plan for the new corporate plan. There are so many great projects in here, but I wanted to highlight just a few. Making it easier to do business with council is something we hear a lot from our community. The customer experience strategy will give us concrete actions to make that happen. The website update and dashboard reporting will improve the community's ability to access information about council and provide our accountability to them. Improving our parks and open spaces is again a message we've heard from the community, and I'm really excited about the work that's about to start in Warwick on some of our garden beds and roundabouts. Planning how to connect our footpaths and cycleways is the first step in working out how to deliver these much wanted assets and will put us in much better shape for future grant funding. The tourism strategy for me was an obvious missing piece for one of our biggest economic drivers. It's already underway and will be completed by the end of the year. Again, like the corporate plan, I think the workshops we've had over the last 6 months to get us here have been really productive, and I want to thank state staff and councillors for all of their contributions. Do we have anyone speaking against the operational plan today? Councillor Bartley.
Not so much against the entire operational plan. I have a concern that in the key highlights we don't mention roads at all. And it's certainly a topic of conversation when we go to consult with the community. Given that the purpose of the operational plan is to underpin the delivery of the first year of the 5-year corporate plan, I'm a bit amazed we didn't mention roads in the key highlights. We mentioned footpaths and cycleways, certainly, as you've said, Mayor, but I'm afraid we've been remiss in mentioning roads.
Yeah. Take that one notice, thank you.
Councillor Richter speaking for.
Yeah. I just want to ask, is the way it's presented to us today, is that how it's actually going to be in the end?
Through you, Chair. No, what you have at the moment, councillors, is the final designed version, which has been printed for us in-house. Following today's meeting, it will be sent to the printers so what you'll receive is actually a proper booklet.
Right. Can I just say, I wasn't actually necessarily against this as a cost-saving measure. Like, I think that's not a bad idea. But anyway, I would just also like to note that my contribution to the corporate plan is almost identical to the operational plan, because I really see them as being, while they're two separate documents, that were effectively done together when we did it. Importantly to note though, even though the title says that it's the operational plan and budget, we're not talking about the budget, we're just talking about the operational plan component of it. And I'm particularly excited, and I look forward to, over the next 12 months, the economic development strategy and the new event strategy, and the flow-on effect of attracting new events to the region, I think is exactly what I think we should be achieving, and that is reflected in this operational plan.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else speaking against the operational plan? No? Another councillor who wants to speak for? Councillor McDonald?
Yes, Mayor. This is another well-created strategic document which provides the details of where our goals are for the future 12 months. It is excellent to see that we're restoring water reservoirs on the Hawker Road and Kenilworth Street, demonstrating immediate, tangible results for our local water supply and security. Rather than a promise of $3 million to conduct more studies for a potential dam, it has already had millions of dollars spent on it with no tangible results. I also note that our planning scheme, which will provide us guidance and new paths forward for our region, has been with the state government for some months now. This process needs to be expedited for the sake of our region. Well done to all those involved in the consultation and the production of this document.
Thank you, councillor McDonald. Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. So here we see the corporate plan's vision turned into action, and I really like the format of it, the way that it's been laid out and colour-coded, and also the graphics that enhance and make it simpler to understand certain aspects of where money is being spent in our priority areas. I like also the way that it links the actions back to our portfolios as councillors. I think that all of those things combined will make it a much more user-friendly document for us as councillors, for staff hopefully also, and the public who might choose to look at it. I think it's easier to see what we're going to do in the next year.
Thank you, councillor Haslett. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. What I particularly like about the operational plan is it focuses on practical outcomes and what matters most to the residents. It reflects the priorities identified through our corporate plan, and it demonstrates how council will continue to deliver reliable services, maintain and improve infrastructure, support our communities and manage resources responsibly over the next 12 months. I also think this plan reflects the importance of delivering on the fundamentals as a council, and we have the responsibility to maintain the assets and services our community relies on every day, while continuing to look for opportunities to improve and grow where it makes sense to do so. Overall, I think this is a well-considered operational plan that provides a strong framework for the year ahead, and I look forward to seeing these projects and initiatives delivered for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I also support the initiatives within the operational plan for security and support tourism and economic development opportunities. All of these are so important to our region, and it's so great to see all of these things linking up and providing staff a clear direction to move forward, so thank you.
Councillor Pigeon. Councillor Watling.
Having spoken in support of the corporate plan, I do not intend to revisit all the initiatives I've already discussed. What matters now is delivery. Plans are easy to write. The real test is whether we deliver the commitments we make to our community. That is what I like with the operational plan. It contains specific actions and measurable outcomes that allow both council and community to track our progress over the next 12 months. I'm particularly pleased to see the commitment. Our community deserves to know how council is performing and whether we are delivering on the commitments we make. I also welcome the continued focus on water security. Water remains a security strategy and planning for critical water infrastructure. The future of the communities, our residents and economy depend on getting this right. Another initiative I support is the commitment to provide greater visibility of Council's unsealed road maintenance program and to help the community better understand road maintenance and reseal priorities. Roads remain one of the issues councillors hear about most often, so better communication around these programs is a positive step. I'm also pleased to see work progressing on an economic development strategy, a retail strategy and a strategic growth strategy. Throughout the corporate plan consultations process, the community made it clear they want to see stronger economic growth, greater investment and more employment opportunities across the Southern Downs region. However, strategies alone will not create growth. We need to see real outcomes. We need new investment, new business, new residents and new jobs. If we want a financially sustainable future, we must continue looking for ways to grow our region and broaden our aid base, not simply rely on those who are already here. The consultation process has already reminded us that our community expects us to do the basics well. Financial responsibility, transparency, economic opportunities and good service delivery were reoccurring themes throughout the feedback we received. Ultimately, this plan will not be judged by what is written in the document, it will be judged by what is delivered. I'll be watching closely over the next 12 months to see how the commitments progress and whether we achieve the outcomes we have promised. For those reasons, I will be supporting the operational plan.
Thank you, councillor Watling. Councillor Windle.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to the staff for the work and effort that they put into putting this operational plan together. As the report states, the purpose of this operational plan for 26-27 is to set out projects and programs of work that underpin delivery of the first year of the 5-year corporate plan and aligns with the 5 community commitments. The plan sets out which council department is responsible for the actions in the plan, while considering the needs and requirements of each area, the due date of completion, and which portfolio councillor has oversight of the strategic priorities. I think that's a really good setup because everybody can keep an eye on that as we progress through the next year to see how we're tracking. The community has clearly asked to see roads maintained, increase water supply, upgrade water infrastructure, maintain and beautify our parks, gardens and public spaces. These are basics. They're needs before wants, and this is what we plan to deliver. I look forward to the next 12 months and tracking it to see how we go, and hopefully we can deliver on all that we've actually included in the plan.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Just speaking in reply to some of those items, Councillor Bartley, I think this is largely a operational plan, and of course a lot of the works to do with roads will appear in the capital program. But I would note that in the operational plan we do refer to our maintenance program for sealed and unsealed roads, as well as delivery of 80% of the capital works program, which would include a lot of roads. I think, as Councillor Wantley mentioned, that transparency over our road program will show people what we're delivering in terms of roads under this operational plan. I'd also like to say, like Councillor Windle, that I think an exciting thing about this plan will be the clarity that it gives to our staff in different areas, and I'm going to be really excited to see how they take this operational plan and run with it, because I think it will give them much more direction by having these really clear goals, clear deliverables and clear reporting. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Finally, moving on to item 4.5, the adoption of the 26-27 financial year budget. We have the recommendation in full there that Council adopt the various expanded resolutions appropriate for adoption of the budget and making and levying rates and charges, which are summarised in items 1 through to 23 in your papers. I'll move that, and again, Deputy Mayor, will you second? Thank you. Okay. Once again, I want to say thank you to the community for the strong input in shaping this budget. We've engaged with almost 400 residents at our budget pop-up sessions in April, which for this term is certainly the highest engagement we've had in a budget process by quite some margin. I'd also like to thank the councillors that have contributed to developing the budget and the staff for all of their hard work. This budget is about making sure the Southern Downs remains a great place to live as our region continues to grow. It's been developed in a challenging financial environment for all councils across Queensland, with rising costs for fuel, materials and construction, alongside growing demand for trades and services. We understand how ratepayers feel at the checkout and at the fuel station. We at council have the same pressures to manage as we manage our finances responsibly and try to deliver the services our community relies on. We've worked hard over the last 7 months to keep increases in the budget as low as possible, while still delivering essential, reliable services and infrastructure. The vast majority of our residential properties are owner-occupied. For them, the median general rates increase is 3.5%, between $1 to $4.80 per week, and less than the current rate of inflation in Australia, well below the construction cost index of 7.1%. With fuel rising at 13% and insurance at 10%, our council costs have risen far above the rate of inflation. So keeping the median general rate increase at 3.5, I think is quite an achievement. But this achievement required trade-offs. This budget includes a non-principal place of residence rates category that will apply to holiday homes and investment properties. This change will bring us into line with many other Queensland councils and more equitably share the cost of council services across different groups of ratepayers. In doing so, we join at least 25 other councils across Queensland that have adopted a similar approach. Many of them have a higher rate for invested properties than we are proposing here today. I believe this is the right step. It reflects that an investment property is a business producing an income, unlike a family home. Landlords already pay lower rates than owner-occupiers because their rates are tax deductible. And the rate increase we're proposing is inconsequential compared to the insurance and finance costs of an investment property. Given the cost pressures and trade-offs we've made, I think we've delivered a good result for residents. Already this month, Western Downs has adopted a 7.16% rise in general rates, Sunshine Coast 9.7%, Bundaberg 8.2%, Townsville 6.8% and the Gold Coast 9.7%. It's been a hard 2 years for us to get here, but I think with the new 5-year corporate plan, this year's operational plan and the budget, we're now being rewarded. We're starting to see the efficiency benefits of having a great executive team, and we can now get on with the job and deliver for our community. We have a clear direction from them and a clear message to live within our means. Every dollar we invest is about supporting our community, whether it's maintaining local roads, providing reliable water and waste services, or building the infrastructure we need in the years ahead. We have a beautiful region and a passionate community, and this budget is about shaping our future to ensure Southern Downs remains a place we're all proud to call home. Do I have any councillors speaking against the budget? Councillor Richters?
Mayor, I move that item 4.5, adoption of the 26-27 financial year budget, lie on the table pending further discussion with officers, further analysis of available budget and rating options, and the calling of a further special council meeting to reconsider the 26-27 budget.
Okay, that's a procedural motion from Councillor Richters to lay the budget on the table. Going to a vote on that. Those in favour? That's Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. Those against? Councillors Dean, Pidgeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Coming back to the motion, do I have anyone speaking against the budget? Councillor Richters?
Mayor, I move that council, pursuant to section 116 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, limit the increase in rates and charges for lines 3 and 4, being the residential non-principal place of residence 1 and 2 to 7.5% for the 26-27 financial year. Make the consequential amendments to the 26-27 revenue statement and budget statements and associated budget documents necessary to give effect to the 7.5% limitation in item 1, with any broader budget rating, fees and charges, program or service level changes to be considered by council by further resolution, and require the Chief Executive Officer to present a report to the July 2026 Ordinary Council meeting, identifying options for budget reductions, savings, deferrals, revenue adjustments or targeted concessions to offset the financial impact of the limitation.
Sorry, is that an amendment motion?
Yep.
I don't think I can accept that as an amendment motion, Councillor Richters. The amendment has to maintain or clarify the intent of the motion, and given the effect of this motion, I'll go to the CEO, but I believe the effect of this would be we could not adopt the budget papers and documents in their current form because of the changes that this would necessitate. So I think it doesn't actually maintain the intent of the original motion.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I think it's here.
Hang on,
Yeah, on that, so. Danny.
Through the chair, our officer's advice would be that you don't accept the amendment because it is contrary to the recommendation that is sitting before you at the moment. It is not a simple amendment in that it would have effect to the whole document and the whole budget paper that sits before you. It would also then contrary the other two documents that you've just approved, the corporate plan and the operational plan. You have, as a council, you have adopted and given direction and effect to a 5-year corporate plan and a 1-year operational plan, and to deliver that, to change the budget paper as it sits at the moment would in effect not allow officers to deliver the operational plan.
Thank you. Councillor Richters, I suggest that you speak during the motion itself. In your discussion, you speak to the issues here, and if the budget does not pass, then we'll have a further motion to adjourn and consider the items that you've raised. So we are still on the original motion. Did you want to speak against Councillor Richters or?
I'd like to move a motion of dissent against your ruling.
Councillor Richters is moving a procedural motion of dissent. Just a second. Okay. Going to a vote on that. Did anyone have any questions of the CEO on the advice given that resulted in that ruling before we vote on the procedural motion? No. Those in favour? Councillors Richters, Wantling and Bartley. Those against? Councillors Dean, Pidgeon, Haslett, McDonald, Windle and Hamilton. Thank you. Going back to the original motion, do we have a councillor speaking against the motion?
It's the budget.
Against the budget.
Firstly, can I acknowledge the work that has gone into preparing the budget? Our staff has done an amazing job. I certainly do not envy the task of trying to find the right balance. Also recognise the challenge council faces with increasing costs, including fuel, insurance, electricity and construction costs. There are some very good initiatives and projects contained within the budget. There are investments that I support and outcomes that I hope will benefit our communities. However, a budget is not simply a collection of projects, it is also a statement of priorities, and our council choose to raise and spend the community's money. One of my primary concerns is in introduction of the new non-principal place of residence rating category. According to the 2021 Australian Bureau of Statistics census, around 22% of households in the Southern Downs rent their home, representing approximately 3,500 households. The same census recorded around 180 people experienced homelessness across our region. Importantly, these figures are now 5 years old. Since the census was undertaken, we have seen significant increase in housing costs, rental prices, interest rates and cost of living pressures. Council's own Housing Action Plan identifies housing affordability, low rental vacancy rates and the need to increase housing supply as major challenges facing the Southern Downs. We also know that across Queensland, around 54% of low-income renting households are experiencing rental stress or are at risk of homelessness. While that is a statewide figure, it highlights the very real housing pressures facing many people today. If anything, I believe the housing challenges identified by the 2021 census are likely to be even more significant today than they were 5 years ago. What I find particularly difficult to reconcile is the feedback we received from the corporate plan consultation process. Following extensive community consultation, only 26% of respondents indicated they believe the Southern Downs was doing a good job of providing affordable, available housing. That should be a concern. Our community has told us very clearly that housing affordability and housing availability remain significant challenges. Yet one of the key rating changes in the budget is the introduction of a category that increases the cost of providing rental accommodation. I struggle to reconcile these two positions. If only 26% of the community believes we are doing a good job when it comes to affordable and available housing, then I believe we should be looking for ways to improve that figure, not introducing measures that risk making the challenge even greater. Over recent days, I've spoken with a number of real estate landlords and message was consistent. They see this as an additional cost on providing rental accommodation, and where possible, they will seek to recover that cost through rents. I know discussions about landlords can sometimes be unpopular, but the reality is that we need people willing to invest in housing. Every rental property exists because somebody has invested in providing that accommodation. If we want more housing choice, more rental properties and more investment in housing, we should be encouraging that investment, not increasing the cost of it. Most importantly, I'm concerned about the impact on the renters. At the time when housing affordability remains a challenge and many households are already struggling with rising costs, I cannot support this rating category. If part of the intent is to address the short-term accommodation, I do not believe this proposal achieves that. Increasing rates does not make an unapproved short-term accommodation operator become compliant. Compliance should be addressed through compliance processes, not through a broad rating category that also captures long-term residential rental properties. I also note that it is often said around this table that other councils have adopted similar approaches. With respect, we are not other councils. We're the Southern Downs Regional Council. Our responsibility is to the people of Southern Downs. We should be focused on what is right for our residents, our ratepayers, our businesses and our region, not simply following the lead of other governments. For me, this is not one isolated issue. In effect, renters, housing affordability, housing supply, housing investment, and the broader cost of living pressures already being experienced by many residents across our region. There are some very good things in the budget. and there are projects, initiatives that I support. However, I cannot,
That's 5 minutes, councillor Wantling, thank you.
I cannot support a budget that introduces a rating category.
Thank you. Do we have another councillor speaking for the budget? Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. Putting together a budget is never an easy task. As a council, we are constantly balancing the expectation of our community with the financial realities of delivering services and maintaining infrastructure across a large and diverse region. We are often talking about an infrastructure cliff, and the Southern Downs unfortunately faces this reality every day. We cannot keep kicking the can down the road by postponing these fundamental upgrades. What I appreciate about this budget is that it focuses on things that matter most to our residents. It invests in the services and infrastructure our community relies on every day, while also maintaining the responsible approach to council's long-term financial sustainability. I think it also reflects the importance of the principle of maintain before expand. Our community expects us to look after the assets we already have, and this budget continues to prioritise the maintenance and renewal of infrastructure that support our towns and rural communities. The development of the 26-27 budget has been challenging due to the increase in operational costs in areas that council has no control over. This includes fuel up 13%, insurance up 10%, and the list goes on. Importantly, this budget takes a region-wide approach. Every community across the Southern Downs has its own priorities and needs, but we must continue to make decisions that deliver the greatest benefit for the region as a whole. By keeping a region before individual mindset, we can ensure that our investments support the long-term success of the entire Southern Downs. I would also like to acknowledge the considerable work undertaken by councillors, and council staff in developing this budget. It represents many months of planning, discussion and difficult decisions to ensure we are delivering value for our ratepayers while positioning our region for the future. Overall, I believe this is a balanced and responsible budget that will allow council to continue delivering for our community while maintaining a strong focus on long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Dean. Do we have another councillor speaking against the budget? Councillor
Thanks,
Bartley.
Similarly to Councillor Wantling, I have concerns over the non-place of residence and the way we've structured that charge in the rates and that category. I'm concerned, and as Councillor Wantling said, other councils have done it. They have considerable tent cities too. Unfortunately, we do have a small growing tent city under the I.O. Madsen Bridge, and I don't want to put more people there. It can only be passed on to the renter. If you're a landlord, you'll just pass that on. Landlords are probably fairly removed, and it's normally placed in the hands of a real estate agent to deal with it, and they've got to get a return for that landlord. On the heels of a federal budget that's looked at capital gains, I think we'll be running very short of rental properties, and that's going to be a big problem for this community. But that's one of my concerns why I won't be supporting it. The other main concern is roads again. I must seem like an empty vessel when I'm babbling about roads. I don't think we've put enough money in the budget for roads. We've got $22 million allocated there. If you have a look at the capital, resheeting is mainly to the western part of our region. I think we resheeted 3 roads last year. We're doing considerably more. I think there's 8 this year. But they're mainly in the western part, which is not our black soil areas of the northern eastern part, which do require resheeting regularly. If you've lived in those areas, you know it happened by previous councils on an annual basis. But that doesn't happen anymore. It's going to be, we'll have to pay catch up one day. And there's no doubt about it, we will have to pay catch up. The other concern I have that some roads have fallen off the radar, where we had $39,000 or $35,000 in last year's budget for design on Hayes Road. That has slipped back now. I believe we still have some funds in there for Hayes Road for design, but the repair and construct has slipped back even further. And that road has significant impacts by an approved development that occurred. And I think we gave a little bit of an undertaking during the discussion of approving that development that we would be upgrading that road. So I think the residents in that area deserve some better consideration regarding Haigs Road. Overall, the water consumption rate charge of increasing by 9.3%. User pays, I get that. Trouble is, I think will impact on some of our larger employers that use bulk water. If they look for alternate supplies of water, you'll be having to lift those consumption charges higher. So I think we need to treat that not with a sledgehammer effect, with a more kit and glove effect when we lift those increases. They're part of the reasons why I won't be supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Do we have another councillor speaking for? Councillor Pigeon?
I acknowledge the significant work undertaken by council, staff and community in developing the budget. This budget has been prepared during a period of considerable financial pressure, with rising costs associated with fuel, insurance, electricity, technology, depreciation and construction, placing increasing strain on local government finances. Despite these challenges, council has presented a balanced budget while maintaining a commitment to essential service delivery and infrastructure investment. I particularly welcome council's focus on the priorities consistently identified by the community, including roads and maintenance, water security and the upkeep of parks and public spaces. The allocation towards the infrastructure renewal and upgrades demonstrates a commitment to maintaining and improving critical assets to support our communities and economy. While this budget appropriately focuses on delivering the basics well, it also recognises the importance of planning and investing for the future. Strategic investments in water security, infrastructure renewal, economic development and community facilities that are essential to ensuring the Southern Downs remains a region where people want to choose to live, work, invest and raise their families. Sound financial management today creates the capacity to meet the future's challenges and seize future opportunities, leaving a stronger, more resilient region for the next generation. At the same time, it is important that council continues to monitor the impact of rating changes and costs increasing on residents, businesses and primary producers. While financial sustainability is essential, ongoing engagement with the community will be critical to ensure that burden of rising costs remains manageable and equitable. Looking ahead, I encourage council to continue advocating for external funding opportunities, particularly for major infrastructure projects, water security initiatives and regional development priorities that cannot reasonably be funded by ratepayers alone. Overall, this budget represents a measured and responsible approach that seeks to balance financial sustainability with community expectations. While there will always be differing views on priorities and spending decisions, the budget provides a framework for delivering essential services, maintaining infrastructure and positioning the Southern Downs for future growth and prosperity. I thank the council officers, councillors and community members who contributed this process, and I look forward to seeing the delivered outcomes over the coming financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Do we have another councillor speaking against? Yep.
I have made every attempt available to me to limit the first year impact of the new non-principal place of residence rating category, while a fairer and more targeted approach was considered. A majority have chosen to proceed without any safeguard.
Councillor, you had spoken first against on my list.
No. I raised a procedural motion, I raised an amendment, and I raised another procedural motion. I haven't spoken to the substantive motion.
Sorry.
So the budget now before us is not simply the officer recommendation, it is the package council has chosen to continue with after rejecting options to pause, review or soften the review. I want to start by saying that there are parts of this budget that I support. Council is operating in a difficult financial environment. The cost of maintaining the services and infrastructure our community relies on has gone up. I accept that. Roads, water, sewage, drainage and bridges are not optional extras, they are basic responsibilities of local government and we have to fund them properly. As a portfolio holder for tourism events and economic development, I also welcome continued support for major events. Events bring people to our region, fill accommodation, support local businesses, activate our main streets and help tell the story of the Southern Downs and Granite Belt. I support keeping the 7.5% discount for people who pay their rates on time. I support keeping repayment options for people who cannot pay in one instalment. During this year's budget process, I was genuinely optimistic. I felt that we were heading in the right direction, and I believe the concerns raised through the process were being heard. The final package before us does not reflect the level of fairness, clarity, or targeting that I had hoped for. We also need to be honest about the consultation numbers. 300 people actively participated in providing feedback. That is 0.8% of the Southern Downs population. And for a rating change that represents 24% of our region, and 1.5% of those people live in social and community housing, the consultation, whilst it was good, probably doesn't extend far enough. The total increase in rates and charges and dollar amounts is 8.7%. Residents do not pay council in separate accounting lines. They sit around the kitchen table and they look at the final bill. I also have concerns about people paying minimum rates, particularly those in small villages, when the minimum rate increases by a greater proportion than what the rate in the dollar does. So that is my problems. The rental properties are not the owner's principal place of residence. They are the tenant's principal place of residence. And for ordinary in-town homes, particularly those with a relatively standard land value, the increase is going to be somewhere around about $12 per week. That will be passed through as rent. I also have concerns about some of the multi-residential properties because they generally affect people on fixed incomes, and they live in smaller and lower cost housing because that's all that they can afford. We're heading into another drought, and water security is again front of mind. Southern Downs residents know what drought means. They know what water restrictions mean. They know what it means when water security is treated as a future problem instead of an urgent responsibility. After the drought crisis of 2019 to 2022, this community was told long-term water security would be delivered. We have had announcements, we've had commitments, we have had funding, and we have had press releases. We have had governments telling us they are delivering for Queensland, but 7 years down the track, Southern Downs is still waiting. A pipeline, which is now not being delivered, has been subject to press releases, but press releases don't make it rain. And now we're effectively told that the matter can be revisited when the need arises. Well, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. When the need arises is already too late. So I'll call out any government that passes on costs to local government, and the federal government doesn't get a free pass either. Local government is being squeezed from every direction. Biosecurity funding, disaster funding, the Bureau of Meteorology stepping away from critical river monitoring arrangements and expecting local governments to pick up the costs. They are cost shifts on the council and then ultimately ratepayers. It is shameful and it warrants ministerial intervention. But while the cost shifting is real, it does not mean council passes on every pressure straight through to residents. I was disappointed that the aerodrome, as I talked about before, the aerodrome changes weren't part of the fees and charges, and I've seen that as being a relatively low impact change that could have made a big difference to people who own small aircraft. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, councillor Richters. Do we have another councillor speaking for the budget? Councillor Hustler.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, in relation to the question of stopping, pausing or postponing the decision that we have to make today, it's my feeling that we've had months of opportunity discussing what is proposed in this budget, and I certainly feel I've had ample time to ask those questions before today. So that is my reasoning for voting that way on that matter. In relation to the non-principal place of residence, which is of concern to a lot of councillors, it is of concern to me too. And I acknowledge that no system of tax or revenue is ever going to be perfect. There are always going to be a number of winners and losers in there, and there are always going to be people who find loopholes and make the most of situations, and then that means that there will be other people who miss out. There will certainly be some people who feel that this increase is unfair in their particular circumstances, and they have the opportunity to bring those concerns to council for consideration. Some councillors have also raised concerns that landlords may pass these costs on to tenants, and that well may be. But as council, I don't believe that it is our job to be the moral gatekeeper of what people do with their finances outside of what they have to pay to us. If that happens, that is a shame. I would hope that the people out there with money and multiple properties would be better than that. But I can't control that. So overall, I believe that this is a reasonable measure that asks those who have more to contribute a little bit more to our communities. And with the increased revenue that we would receive from this, we might be able to address the issues raised, such as provision of more affordable housing or increase in roads expenditure. But we need money to be able to do those things. For me, the biggest takeaway from this budget is that council is doing everything that it can to stretch every ratepayer dollar as far as it possibly can. So before discussing more challenges, I think it's really important to acknowledge the work that's been done by our staff. The financial sustainability ratios presented within this budget show that council is meeting or exceeding the accepted benchmarks across every category. That's important because it demonstrates that when we talk about financial pressures, we're not talking about poor management. We're not talking about a council living beyond its means. We're talking about a council that is managing its finances responsibly, making disciplined decisions, and still facing increasing financial pressure from a system that's becoming harder and harder for local governments to sustain. In other words, we are doing our job and we are doing it as well as we possibly can. What this corporate plan and budget process has highlighted for me is that the challenge is not a lack of discipline at our local government level. The challenge is a system that asks local governments to do more and more while receiving a tiny share of public revenue. I understand the frustration that people feel when rates notices arrive. Nobody enjoys paying them, and as all of us ratepayers ourselves, we do understand exactly how that feels. But I think it's important that we put local government funding into perspective. Across Australia, local governments receive only a very small share of the tax revenue collected by other levels of government. Yet we're responsible for delivering and maintaining much of the infrastructure and many of the services that people interact with every single day. Our roads, as Councillor Bartley mentioned, water networks, as Councillor Richter's mentioned, parks, sporting facilities, libraries, waste services, community infrastructure are all things that people rely on and often take for granted until something goes wrong. The reality is that Australians contribute far more to other levels of government through income tax, GST and other taxes than they ever will with rates. Yet local government remains the level of government closest to the community and often the first place people turn when something needs to be fixed, maintained or improved. That's why cost shifting has become such a serious issue. Local governments are increasingly expected to take on responsibilities that were once funded or delivered by other levels of government, while communities quite rightly continue to expect the same level of service and infrastructure that we provide. It's not about passing responsibility, what I'm saying. It's about recognising reality. Local government is doing more than ever before with finite resources, and councils across Queensland and Australia are facing exactly this same challenge. Yet, despite those challenges, I am optimistic about the future of the Southern Downs and what this budget proposes and what we can provide in the year to come.
Thank you, Councillor Hustler. Anyone else speaking against the budget? Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, the federal budget has a cascading effect on the local government, as mentioned by Councillor Richters. His comments were certainly fair, and so were yours, Councillor Haslett, in regards to cost shifting. I'm going to call this out as I see it. On Monday night, I was eating my dinner listening to the news. Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, made a dismissive comment towards local government, suggesting to a colleague, this isn't a council, this is a serious parliament. PM, I, along with the elected members around this table, take my job very, very seriously and represent 37,000 constituents. I found those remarks to be flippant and demonstrating very little respect for the job that we do at the roots level, working for our constituents. While the federal government puts cuts in place that are millions of dollars from disaster recovery programs, $60 million from pest and weed management programs, and further cuts also to bomb programs. This is a consistent theme that we are seeing on and on again. That being said, this is one of the most important meetings of the year for SDRC. This year, external factors beyond our control, such as wars, interest rate hikes, inflation, cost of living increases, global uncertainty and blatant cost shifting from higher levels of government have made our position as a local government nearly untenable. Families are already struggling to make ends meet. On Monday, I saw Toowoomba City Council removing homeless people from parks. Our local emergency accommodation is at nearly full capacity and there are still people sleeping rough. I am of the mindset of looking for savings and belt tightening. In these areas, I think we need to look at reducing the rate burden. I'm of the opinion that if an organisational review was conducted and any positions vacant for longer than 12 months are not considered critical, i.e. have a contractor backfilling them, they could be removed from the budget, and this could have a significant impact on our budget and reduce the rate increase. This is certainly a practice that was widely utilised during my time in the Australian Army. I also have concerns over the new rating category for non-principal place of residence that many constituents have raised concerns over this category, stating the increase in rates will be passed on to the tenants and with full-on ramifications once again to cost of living pressures. So for these reasons, I will not be supporting. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor McDonald. Councillor Windle.
Thank you. I think first of all, I'll just touch on the rates applied to non-principal place of residence investment properties. I agree that the timing of this may not be perfect, but I don't think it would matter when it was introduced. It will never be a good time. I understand that rental properties are very much needed across our region. They contribute significantly to the local housing market and are essential for many people to have a deserving place to live. However, previously I've been a landlord, so I know how most landlords think and act. Most landlords don't apply rent increases according to what they pay in rates. They will take the advice of their property manager, and I was a property manager for 7 years, so I think I can speak on that. And they take advice from their property manager as to what the market is actually indicating. A large majority of landlords will increase the rent at almost every new lease, regardless of what their expenses are. In the current market, landlords are doing extremely well with their returns on their investment, and all of their expenses, including rates, are tax deductible. As we have all witnessed, there has been huge increases in rent collection for investors. I don't think a small increase in their rates will impact on what they are currently receiving. They have increases in insurances every year, but they don't use that as an excuse to put the rent up. They will put the rent up regardless. Going back to the budget itself, given the challenging cost environment that Council is currently facing, I congratulate our staff on presenting a well-balanced budget. Staff have focused on delivering essential services while managing the many increases in cost to this council, trying to meet community expectations and at the same time display responsible financial management. Council, just like businesses and households, has to budget, and it's very difficult to find a balance while we continue to see increasing costs in everything Council has to deliver. Just like businesses and households, Council is faced with increasing costs in fuel, insurance, electricity and construction. Added to that, Council has the additional expense of depreciation of assets. The budget has to reflect all of those increases, and it's not an easy task. While I would have loved to see a $0 increase in rates, as would everyone, it's not possible unless we drastically cut services, and I'm not just talking about roads and parks and gardens. We have cemeteries, public toilets, swimming pools, libraries, art galleries to maintain, and all other council-owned assets, along with the roads and parks and gardens. The community has told us that they do not want to lose any of the existing services. They want to see an increase in services across our region. So my question is, how do we do that with ever-increasing costs within our budget without increasing rates? What do we cut out of the budget in order to reduce our rate increases? And we have had, like Councillor Haslett said, we've had ample opportunity to point those things out if we could see an area where something could be removed from the budget. So I don't understand the kickback. Page 6 of the operational plan details how your rates are spent with council. Page 7 shows you how council balances the books, and page 8 shows a comparison between Southern Downs Regional Council and other councils. I encourage ratepayers to read these informative pages. They'll provide you with answers to some of your questions, and I think you'll be surprised. On closing, I would like to remind ratepayers that council is still offering a 7.5% discount on your general rates if you pay the full amount by the due date. There is also the pensioner discount offered by the state government, which council applies for eligible ratepayers. Council continues to lobby the state government to increase that discount, which has been the same since 2011. We'll keep trying. And if anyone is actually facing difficulty in paying your rates, please make contact with our staff. They will assist you in repayment options. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Speaking in reply, Councillor Haslett and Councillor Windle have touched on this, but a budget is about cooperation and collaboration. It's about councillors working together to build the best budget possible. None of us around the table will agree on every aspect of a budget. We all have our own preferences of what should be in or out, but we should come to a consensus. We should have trade-offs, and then we should pass the budget that is developed to support our operational plan. This has been a 7-month process, and it is disappointing to me to see issues raised at the last moment when they cannot be properly considered. The non-principal place of residence proposal was included in the consultation document that was put to the community and available since April. In fact, those councillors who attended the budget engagement sessions would have been able to speak to people who were raising that as one of their issues. I noticed you were not able to join us, Councillor Richters, for those discussions, but staff were open to discussing all items that were put before the community, and I know the finance team were available at all of those sessions for discussion. In our submission process, we did receive one submission in relation to the non-principal place of residence proposal, but people were able to discuss it at the time. At bottom, if you are arguing against the non-principal place of residence rate being introduced in its current form, what you are actually proposing is that the residential rate increase for owner-occupiers comes back into line with the rest of the increases across our rates and fees and charges. As I said, with many other councils, they are looking at rate rises above 7%, and that's where we would have been without this proposal. The average rent in Warwick over the last 5 years has nearly doubled, increasing far faster than rates. Those upsides and returns are never shared with tenants, but a small increase in rates is suggested to be the reason that people will put up rents. I actually don't believe it. The median rent in Warwick is $550 a week. Of that, the median rate for Warwick is $33 a week. That is a massive difference. As I said, the insurance costs and finance costs, which are far higher than rates, represent a bigger proportion of the costs to a landlord. But importantly, we speak here about cost shifting all the time. Councillor McDonald spoke about it before. Because rates are tax deductible to investors of rental properties, they will pay lower taxes to Canberra as a result of this rate rise. That reduction will be offset by paying higher rates that stay here in this community. With this proposal, we have an ability to spend more of that tax money here instead of spending it to Canberra and then fighting tooth and nail to get it back. As to the vacant positions mentioned by Councillor McDonald, while the budget does cover vacant positions, the additional money allows us to fill these roles on a casual or contract basis. If the roles are removed, then the cost needs to move to the contract side of our budget. As contractors are more expensive than staff, this would result in a higher cost and not a cost saving. I also would like to say that some councils have faced in this challenging budget with fuel increases at 13%, high insurance increases at 10%, and the construction cost index at 7% and above. Some councils are actually projecting a deficit this financial year. I'm really proud that through the proposals that we have here today, we are maintaining our financial ratios and maintaining our financial sustainability. Thank you. Going to a vote on the budget. Those in favour? It's Councillors Dean, Pidgeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. That is, the budget is passed. Thank you, Councillor Richters. We record votes on every vote, as you'll be aware. Thank you very much, councillors, and I declare the meeting closed at 10:22.